and we'll send you out a no obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, 16th day of August, 2017. Happy Wednesday. Now, this is officially what is known in America anyway. I'm sorry? Is that you, Michael?
No, that wasn't me.
No?
I didn't hear anything.
I heard a voice somewhere.
It wasn't me.
Well, now I'm hearing things. Anyway, happy hump day. Depending upon your time zone, you are either over the hump and on the downward slide, or you still got an hour or two to go. Either way, we're glad to have you with us. Yep, definitely got some audio deficiencies going on here.
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, but I'm hearing something back through the
else.
headphones. It's got a warble and a garble to it. And I can't. Huh. What is that? Oh well. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. For those of you who are here for the first time, a special welcome to you. Now, there's a chart up of the S&P 500 E-mini Futures. If you can't see the chart, just go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. Within 30 seconds, you'll be registered all the way through the end of the month. That means you'll have one-click access to the show. You'll be able to see the charts, and you'll have access to the chat box and our global audience. You can also go to youtube.com/CFRN/live once the show's up and running, and same thing. You'll have access to both the charts and the YouTube chat box. Two different chat boxes, but I can see them both from where I sit. Okay, I finally got that little audio glitch to go away. That's pretty annoying. Okay, we talked last week. It was on a Friday, I do believe, with Tyler Evans, the CTO of BTC Media and Bitcoin Magazine, and we kind of dug deep and got some info on the old cryptocurrency. Now, I got an email yesterday that reminded me of what it was like back in the day when we first started talking about Bitcoin. When we first started telling the audience that there was this thing called Bitcoin. We weren't recommending anybody, unfortunately, to buy it or not buy it. But boy, we took some heat. I mean, oh my God. Both in the chat box and in the inbox, I mean, the heat poured on at $2. Now that it's at $4,000, I haven't checked the price today, but it went to $4,000 over the weekend. I get an email yesterday, and it just took me back in time to what it was like when I first brought it up. Sorry, Dwayne, but I was not able to watch the interview as I didn't get this notice until it was too late. Which, of course, in and of itself is odd because the notice was sent out. Never mind. What I have to share about Bitcoin, you may not like. But, like Scripture, the truth has to be told. For anyone other than the ones who are totally greedy and could care less about the truth and just want to make money on the foolish, or the ones lacking common sense, then they can look at scams like Bitcoin. You know, at $2 when no one really understood what it was, I just let all that roll off my back because who knows. But anyway, I'm just going to read it to you. And they wouldn't be the first or the last. People continually look for how they can make fantastic returns, whether it makes sense or not. Can people not understand that currency was not designed to be making money on? Currency was never designed for the purpose of making money on. People were never supposed to put money in a savings account and earn interest. Oh, I said I was just going to read it, didn't I? But as a medium for exchange for goods and services. Yes, I know that the Forex is there, but does it make it right? At least there is actual currency that exists and that you can receive. With Bitcoin, you have nothing other than someone saying it's worth $100 today, but in a year, it is worth over $3,000, then drops in a month to $1,800. That's absolute lunacy. Well, the only reason gold has any money is because people have come into agreement that it has value. It might as well be seashells or pigeon dew. You know what I'm saying? I've said that all along. What greater scam has been perpetuated upon the American people than the U.S. dollar, which is printed by the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with the U.S. government, and they charge us interest to print our own money for us. Charge us interest. But again, I digress. Does it make sense that almost all people today only look at are the possible fantastic returns on something, whether that actually exists or regulated, or know what or how much there is of a figment of imagination? Is it worse than the way our current money supply comes into being, which 99.9% of people don't even know that? So we found something we finally agree on. With Bitcoin, people don't know anything other than the unrealistic returns they supposedly can make. Well, I'm sorry. What's unrealistic about something that we on this radio show watched go from $2 to $4,000? You know, that's real money. That's $4,000 worth of real groceries that you can buy. You know, $4,000 worth of real gas you can put in your car. Or maybe it's a semester at college. I don't know. But I must read on. Who determines how much of Bitcoins there are other than numbers which claim there is, and why would anyone pay for something that they can't have? Huh? Saying I got these Bitcoins doesn't mean you have it. Oh, you mean like a gold ETF or a silver ETF or a precious metals warehouse receipt? Like that? I find that people can't think anymore about what is real or fairy tale. I got news for you, pal. Four grand, that ain't no fairy tale. I'm sorry. It may be $2,000 tomorrow. It may be $1,000. Gold could be $500 tomorrow, or it could be 5,000. It depends upon what the collective mind agrees upon. Wish I had more information to give you. I wish you had some information to give me. Off the top of my hat right now, but I have clients that I have to deal with. There's good material out there that will explain in better detail than my quick recap. When I get a chance, I will forward to you, but probably quicker for you to just pull it off the internet yourself. Word of advice I give to everyone, including you: stay away from the scam and don't get others involved. You don't want that on your head. But again, do your due diligence and let the Lord show you that you will see what I'm talking about. Yeah, we've been doing that for quite a while now. Was it not Jesus who sent a disciple? Oh, this is my own editorializing. Was it not Jesus that sent a disciple down to pull 3 coins out of the mouth of a fish? Right? Is there any legal product, property, or entity, even an idea, that can be bought low and sold high? Yes, even farming involves risk, but no one calls that gambling. Sounds like the parable of the talents to me, and the one who hid his under a rock, it wasn't because he couldn't sing. Will there eventually be a retracement? If it's a healthy market, there will be. When I introduced it to our audience at $2, those who bought and cashed out anywhere on the way to 4K, are they going to burn in hell forever because they made a profit? There were folks calling it a scam, perhaps you, back then. But investing $1,000 of risk capital at that price would have you singing probably a much different tune today. Or would you feel like a scammer because you turned $2 into 4,500 times over? Would your family throw you out in the street, or would they take you on vacation? I just pray you're not jealous because you missed out, because that clearly is a sin. It's in the good book. And then there was an article that came out yesterday, which I referred him to and then wished him all the very best as he counsels his clients. He's a financial guidance person. John McAfee, who's been known to go off the deep end of McAfee software, wrote an article yesterday. There are innovations peppered throughout history that have changed human culture beyond recognition. One such innovation was the adoption of agriculture. Prior to this adoption, the great thinkers within society struggled with how to determine when to break camp and move to more fruitful lands, how to limit the size of a village so that sheer numbers did not quickly deplete the available food in a new area, and how to design lodging so that it could be quickly dismantled for a sudden move. Imagine how these great thinkers must have struggled to comprehend a world in which the village never moved, where the size of the village was inconsequential, and where lodging was constructed of immovable stone. There would be nothing in their contextual understanding of their culture that would allow them to comprehend the end product of the emerging new world. McAfee continues to write, I believe that the blockchain is, even now, ushering in a new economic and social paradigm that will rival, if not exceed, the impact that agriculture had in human society. The idea that has clouded the waters for many is the idea of decentralization. There has been much hype for dozens of years about the mind-bending potential of decentralization, but little if nothing has come of it. The reason is that no one has been able to solve the problem of distribution required to power the decentralized system. Distributed, decentralized systems have an inherent power that literally obsoletes centralized systems. This is obvious even to the most casual observer. We have known this for decades. It was not until the arrival of the blockchain, however, that we had a tool capable of melding decentralized and distributed into a single unit within which no central authority whatsoever was necessary. The distributed ledger, maintained by no one, accessible to all, and validated by consensus, is the tool the world has been waiting for. Those who understand this tool see immediately the absurdity of words like bubble or even investment when applied to cryptocurrency. These thought leaders use Bitcoin to buy and sell, and those who use Bitcoin exclusively as a currency and use no other currency, and I personally know dozens who do so, could care less what Bitcoin is worth in dollars. These people see, and have seen for some time, that the old paradigm constructs are meaningless in this new world. It's like the first Pueblo cultures being warned by their past sages that they will perish in their stone houses when it is time for the village to move. They understood that the concept of moving had no meaning in their new world. Likewise, what people see as a Bitcoin bubble, from the perspective of the new paradigm, is merely the predictable and systematic devaluation of fiat currencies that will continue with obvious ups and downs until all fiat currencies reach the 0 point. As the relative value of Bitcoin temporarily drops, they will point to this as proof of their understanding. It won't matter. The reality, if this new world is what it is, those who understand will become the leaders of this new world. Now again, that was well written by John McAfee, who again has been a bit of a bubble himself from time to time. So I just wanted to show you, it's amazing. The hate mail came at $2. The hate mail came at $4,000. It never stops. Welcome to my world. Let's take a look at the numbers around the world and just see how insane everybody really is. We'll start with the cash markets here in the U.S. A little bit of a different color today. The Dow is up 82 points. NASDAQ is up 39. That's a little over half of 1%. S&P 500 is up 10 points. And the Russell 2000 is up 8 points, which is a little over half of 1%. Crude oil trading 47.24 last is down 31 cents on the day. And the gold is trading 12.7810 last, down $1.60 on the day. So that's not bad. Gold's only off $1.60. So we've held above 1270, or we're above 1270. So that's good. All right, in the Asian markets, the Nikkei closed the session down 24 points. Shanghai closed their session down 5 points. And the Hang Seng, big swing back to the upside, up 234 points. That's almost 1%. So mixed in Asia. Europe is green, just like the U.S. The FTSE closed the session up 50 points, a little over 0.5%. DAX up 86 points, over 0.5%. And the CAC up 36 points, over 0.5%. So Europe's green, the U.S. is green, commodities are red, and the world continues to turn. And if I'm not mistaken, this afternoon we get the release of the Fed meeting minutes. Is that correct, Michael? Calling all Michaels. Michael, are you there? He must be out of town. Okay, let's see if I can track him down. Maybe I can. You're responding? Oh, we can't hear you. So something's not happening. Don't know what. Let me open the chat box. Oh, there's nothing in the chat box to open. Hey, somebody give me a Y in the chat box, please, so that I can open it from my end. Because I need to know if anybody else can hear Michael. Because I can't hear him. Okay, there we go. Can you guys hear Michael? Anybody? Nobody can hear you, Michael. Maybe if you log out and come back in, maybe that'll do the trick. Let me make sure you're not muted from this end. Oh, there you are. I just heard you.
Okay, yeah, I was just.
Did you log?
I just unplugged my my headset and plugged it back in.
Oh, that's all it took, huh?
Yep, that's good. That is good. And yes, meeting minutes are this afternoon at 2.
Okay. All right. Let me push the screens over to you.
Okay. There. Okay.
I can see your screens.
Okay.
You ready to roll?
I am ready.
All right. I'll hit mute on this end.
Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 16th day of August 2017. Let's start out. If you have not taken a free trial with us, then go to the homepage here at CFRN.net.
Yeah, John, sorry I couldn't pick up.
And up here at the top, this banner is gonna come down. It says sign up for the CFRN Live Training Room. 100% free trial. User indicators, learn our strategy. Click here. Once you click there, you just need your first name, your email, and your phone number. Click on register now. Once you do that, you will be sent a confirmation link. Okay, you must click the confirmation link. Okay. Let's see the spreadsheet. Okay, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Today is the 16th day of August. 4 ticks in the euro, 3 ticks in crude, 2 ticks in gold. That brought us to 75 bucks is where we ended.
When I called back to the office,
we did get our goal for the day, however. It took us 20 minutes and 2 trades to get to 106.25, and then we
I left her a
took another
voicemail
7
on her extension.
So on the month now, we're at 1380. That's over 12 days, averaging 115 per day.
Requested,
and on the year now, 22,915. That's over 153 days, averaging 144 per day. Okay.
And she hasn't.
Now let's go take a look at what we did or didn't do, what we missed, didn't miss. Right, this is where we got our goal for the day right here. Got 10 ticks profit there on that gold. And we missed that one, and then we got short over here, and it stopped us out. So we were plus 10 here, and then we're down to plus 2.
I'm just
losing 8 ticks right there.
Make it up.
Looks like right here, it was right at the end of the room this morning. It was an up close right here.
No.
I'm trying to point it right there. That would have been a valid long trade, but it was at the end of the room, so I didn't do anything with it. That one doesn't look like it worked out. There was a momentum short right here that still hasn't gone anywhere. Okay, that was all during a break. Now, the euro. The euro had some good movement here in the pre-market. When we started in with it right here, this first one, we got 1 tick profit. Second one, we got another tick profit. Third one was break even. Fourth one we missed. And this one over here, we got 2 ticks profit.
I've never had 2 either. And the day that I called him about the loan,
let's see, there was no trade set up in here, or there,
I told him what happened. He said,
or there.
Send me a copy of that.
So there was nothing during the break on the euro. The euro had absolutely nothing. Now this, let me back this out a little bit.
On her voicemail.
We had crude inventories come out today, and around, I want to say it was around right in here. It was around 10:20. I said, when the inventories come out, look for them to get up into this level and then trade all the way down into this level. Okay, and this level here, I figured they would consolidate there for a little bit. That's what I said when the inventories came out, and this is what happened when the inventories came out. Went up to that level, came back down, consolidated here, made another run at that level, but then just came right down to this level.
Come on.
And
in about 10
I
minutes.
said all that based upon the API stuff that came out yesterday.
Whenever you're ready.
This right here was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that because the cycle was going down too steep, so I stopped out with -3 on that. I missed that right there, and then I got +6 right there. The rest of it in here, we just did not have the cycle set up properly. Okay, during the break, there was 1 long trade right here. That would have been a break even for me. A short trade right over here. Were we trending? No, I wouldn't have done this. And that was it. That was it for the day. Okay. Soybeans, we just had this 1 break even trade right here. And I told everyone to expect it to get down below 2150, and it got just below 2150, down to 2100. Came back up and then just went sideways. So it was not trending in here, so there was no trading in there. The ES, we pointed out just 1 spot here on the ES this morning. It was right in there, and I said watch for it to get up to the zone here at 72, and it had a high of 74. So it did get. It did get up there anyway. Okay. Okay. Let's go back here. Okay, today is the 16th of August. We made 4 ticks in the euro, 3 ticks in crude, 2 ticks in gold. It got us up to 75 bucks. That was after we stopped out on that gold and that crude. Today it took us 20 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up 106.25. And we took a total of 9 opportunities this morning. So on the month now, 1380. That's over 12 days, averaging 115 per day. And on the year now. 22,915, that's over 153 days, averaging 149 per day. Okay, if you're going to read this, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Now back here. If you have not taken a free trial with us, then you simply need to go to the homepage here at CFRN.net, where it says sign up to the CFRN Live Training Room, 100% free trial. Use your indicators, learn our strategy. Click here. You click there, it brings you to this page where we just need your first name, your email, and your phone number. Click on register now, and you will be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, once you do that, then we know that you've taken the trial, and we can send you all the information you need to get into our live training room. All right, and that's it, guys. That's all I have. Hey, I didn't even know you could do that. Yeah. All right, with that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. Studio A, overlooking the nation's largest city park. Studio A. You'll have to take it.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Special notice.
All right, here we go. Okay. This is going to take me a moment. All right, guys, I gotta do something here. So, Michael, if you got something clever you want to say,
Clever.
it's important that I do this right away.
Let me just do this right here. So today, we had building permits come in lower than expected, just a little lower than expected, 1.22 million. They're expecting 1.25. We had housing starts come in just a little lower than expected. Got 1.16 million, and they were expecting 1.22. And the crude inventories came in at minus 8.9 million. Now the API number yesterday came in minus 9.3 million. That's what I was basing those movements in the crude on when the inventories came out. Well, before the inventories came out. That's why I was saying expect the crude to get up to here and then give it all back and retrace back down to the low of the day. And that is what it did. So at 2 p.m. this afternoon, we have FOMC meeting minutes. And what they are, it's a detailed record of the FOMC's most recent meeting, providing in-depth insights into the economic and financial conditions that influence their vote on where to set interest rates. That is, that comes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year, it looks like. Or actually it comes out more. Hang on, let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year it comes out. Sorry about that. So the next one will be in October. Then there'll be another one in November. October and November will be the next meeting minutes.
All right, buddy, I got it.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
The world has suddenly gone topsy-turvy. Okay. On Monday, President Trump stood before a teleprompter in the White House and read a message about uniting the country after what he called an egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend. Trump said that no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws, we salute the same great flag, and we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. He ended the address on a hopeful note In times such as this, America has always shown its true character, responding to hate with love, division with unity, and violence with an unwavering resolve for justice. Man, it doesn't get much better than that. But then on Tuesday, things came across a little bit differently. Tuesday, standing in the lobby at Trump Tower, the president returned to a familiar mode of communication, a freewheeling press conference in which he veered wildly off message and bashed his critics. Trump blamed many sides for the violence at the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville on Saturday, and he defended his original statement that many said didn't go far enough to condemn the protesters, one of whom drove a car into a crowd of counter-protesters, which unfortunately a woman was lost her life. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt, Trump said? What about the fact they came charging? That they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs. Do they have any problem? I think they do. This came after days of Trump's attacks on Democrats, the fake news media, and the CEOs who had stepped down from Trump's Manufacturing Council, citing the president's failure to swiftly condemn the white supremacists in Charlottesville. Trump responded to Merck CEO Kenneth Frazier's resignation from the Manufacturing Council by attacking Merck's business practices. Now that Ken Frazier of Merck Pharma has resigned from President's Manufacturing Council, he will have more time to lower rip-off drug prices, Trump wrote. Trump hit Frazier again later that day, tweeting, "At Merck Pharma is a leader in higher and higher drug prices, while at the same time taking jobs out of the U.S., bring jobs back, and lower prices." After a handful of other corporate executives, including the CEOs of Under Armour and Intel, also resigned from the council, Trump called the CEOs grandstanders and said they would simply be replaced. Trump's re-election campaign also released its first television advertisement over the weekend, in which it labeled Democrats and the media enemies of the president, accusing the left of obstructing Trump's agenda and the media of attacking our president. I gotta say, why in the world would this guy want to be reelected after all that he has had to deal with? He can't get anything done because, well, I mean, I don't have to tell you. You've seen it all play out in the media. On Tuesday morning, in another attack that did not go unnoticed, of course, Trump retweeted and soon after deleted a cartoon of a train hitting a person marked with the CNN logo. The image sparked accusations that the president was trivializing the death of Heather Heyer, the 32-year-old woman killed when the driver plowed through a crowd of counter-protesters in Charlottesville. Anonymous White House representatives said the tweets were inadvertently posted. Now, it's kind of hard to inadvertently tweet something, but I suppose it can happen. Anything can happen, right? Okay. All right, John will be joining us a little bit later, and Wayne Jett will be with us. We missed him last week. He was away, but he'll be back with us today at the top of the hour. All things going well and as planned. And I assumed to see John there, but John, if you're listening, I don't see. Yesterday I didn't see your microphone. Today I don't see you at all. So bring it on. Okay. Let's see what else is going on out in the big world today. Everybody hates Trump. We know that. Good Lord, get on with the business of America being America. You know, A Uber engineer secretly texted former CEO Travis Kalanick about Elon Musk, saying, "We've got to start calling Elon on his stuff." We'll call it stuff because it's family radio and I can't call it what it is. "I'm not on social media, but let's start fake Tesla and start giving physics lessons about the stupid stuff," Elon says. The text related to Musk's comments about self-driving cars and emerged during Uber's legal battle with Google's Waymo. Wow. And I thought Elon was everyone's hero. Apparently not everyone. More tech firms are refusing service to white supremacists after the violent march at Charlottesville in the U.S. PayPal has pulled its payment services from neo-Nazi sites, while WordPress banned the site of a fascist group, according to Fast Company. Good for them. Amazon has launched a better version of the vending machine with a new service called Amazon Pickup. Customers can order essentials like phone chargers, snacks, drinks, and pick them up from a physical location within minutes. Well, it doesn't. Where is this physical location? And how is it that it's just minutes away? Called Amazon Instant Pickup. The new service will allow customers to pick up items within minutes of ordering them. That's faster than the hours that Amazon Prime now requires, and much faster than traditional shipping options. Customers order from the Amazon app and use a barcode to access their purchase, which can include snacks, drinks, and essentials like phone chargers. An Amazon employee fills the instant pickup locker within minutes of the order. The service is designed for impulse need-it-now purchases, and it uses Amazon locations already in operation for traditional pickups on college campuses. There we go. That's why I haven't seen any. I haven't been on campus lately. Think of instant pickup like a large vending machine with a staff of one. An Amazon representative told Reuters that some items could be cheaper if you chose to buy them with instant pickup rather than selecting traditional shipping, but they did not go into more specific detail. Instant pickup gives Amazon yet another foothold in the physical world, which it is increasingly looking to occupy after announcing in June that it would purchase Whole Foods for $13 billion. Instant pickup is already available in 5 locations, including UCLA, University of California at Berkeley, to name 2. Amazon says it will expand the service to its 22 college campus locations by the end of the year. Like most new Amazon services, it is only available to Prime customers. So there you have it. The world must become a Prime customer. And there's a whole list of perks that you get if you become a Prime customer. I won't go through that list today, but you should Google it up. There's some things you might not be aware of that come along with that $99 a year membership fee. Uber shareholder Shervin Pishevar has claimed another investor, Benchmark Capital, wants to get rid of advisor Arianna Huffington, who has been the firm's public face since Chief Executive Travis stepped down. In a letter obtained by Axios, Pishevar wrote that Benchmark had made quite derogatory comments about Huffington. Well, I mean, gosh, who hasn't? But that's another story for another day. The British security researcher arrested for allegedly creating the Kronos banking malware, Marcus Hutchins, is back online under his Twitter handle, Malware Tech, and making jokes about his arrest. Hutchins has pleaded not guilty to the charges and was originally barred from using the internet. Microsoft bought a cloud computing firm called Cycle Computing to take on Amazon's web services, also known as simply AWS. The firm lets companies run large-scale computing jobs across multiple clouds. The man in charge of Netflix's content, Ted Sarandos, has bashed Amazon's effort in film, saying, "I frankly don't understand their strategy." He made the comment based on the fact that Amazon sticks to a traditional windowing strategy with film, whereas Netflix releases come out at the same time they're in theaters. Oh, these boys and their incredible toys. Bill Gates gave away his biggest wad of money since 2000 with a $1.5 billion donation. A filing revealed the donation, which equates to about 5% of his fortune. However, it did not say where it will go, only that he gave it away. Good for you, Bill. Hopefully it went to something other than GMO or Planned Parenthood. Ex-Googler and former chief scientist at Baidu, Andrew Ng, is raising his own AI fund. Ng is currently raising $150 million, according to PE Hub. And last on our short list of headlines, President Trump launched another attack on Amazon, this time claiming it was doing great damage to tax-paying retailers. The firm's stock fell 0.5% in pre-market trading after the tweet. Jeff needs to go make up with the president. Or the president needs to go make up with Jeff. Now, Jeff is an incredibly smart businessman. No one can deny that. But when it comes to his values and his morals and his political beliefs, boy, we couldn't be farther apart. And how about that Oregon? You guys ever heard of that? I'm not sure how old this news is. I just heard about it this morning. That's not it. That's not it. Maybe legalization's not the right word. How about decriminalize? Yep. Oregon decriminalizes all hard drugs. So this is going to be like the gold rush of the 1800s. As you see everybody loading up, taking everything out of the trailer, putting it in the back of the car, and heading up the Oregon Trail. Now, somehow this got by me. The latest, let me see if under news there's something more current. Well, I guess we'll go with this one. There's so many to choose from now that I've keyed in the right thing. And by no way am I in support of this. I don't make this stuff up. I'm just sharing it with you. I heard it this I don't know how I didn't hear about it till this morning. Oregon is about to become the first state to decriminalize hard drugs. While this may seem shocking and counterintuitive, in reality, It's anything but. If the state of Oregon goes through with the bill and decriminalizes hard drugs, it could prove to be a step in the right direction. It may even set a precedence for the rest of the country. Oregon House Bill 2355. On July 26th of this year, the Oregon State Senate passed House Bill 2355. The bill is a call for small amounts of hard drugs to be decriminalized. While Oregon is highly enthusiastic about cannabis legalization for recreational and medicinal use, hard drugs like cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine is another matter entirely. Even though most people would agree that weed is basically harmless, that's up for debate. Hard drugs are, well, hard drugs. House Bill 2355 might seem strange considering the opioid epidemic that is sweeping our country. And at first glance, it is. But consider this. In 2001, Portugal made history by decriminalizing all drugs. Instead of criminal penalties, those found in possession of drugs got health interventions and incurred civil penalties. The result, drug overdoses decreased. The number of heroin addicts decreased, with most choosing rehabilitation to get clean. The number of deaths due to drugs diminished to practically nothing. Keeping drug addicts out of jail isn't the only goal of the bill. It addresses racial profiling and, if passed, will prevent the deportation of non-U.S. citizens due to a drug charge. Obviously, not everyone voted in favor of this bill. State Senator Betsy Johnson, for example, voted against it. She called the bill disingenuous and expressed concern that it would make the use of hard drugs acceptable. Such acceptance will kill more people who are struggling with addiction. Now that the bill has cleared in both the House and the Senate, it will go to Governor Kate Brown, who is expected to sign the bill into law. One possible factor that could prevent Governor Brown from doing so is the fact that it could put the state of Oregon at odds with the Trump administration. Trump's tough-on-crime stance extends to drug use. More to the point, his right-hand man, Jeff Sessions, is pathologically determined to go back to the days of harsher drug policies, regardless of current data, studies, research, or logic. If it's true that Oregon is about to become the first state to decriminalize hard drugs, then good. Using Portugal's model, it could mean that the state could see a marked improvement in public health. Obviously, the writer of this article is pro the bill getting passed. If Governor Brown does not sign the bill into law, then policymakers will simply have to find another way to fight for their state in the face of the opioid crisis. Wow. Man, the world we live in is changing so rapidly, day by day. It is hard to recognize on some days. Okay, there's John. I see him now. Okay, John, you've got an open mic. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good. I was just reading this thing about Oregon. Have you read about that?
Yeah, no, I haven't, but it.
Unbelievable.
I heard about it.
Yeah.
It's what's the world coming to? Anyhow.
I mean, they claim it worked in Portugal. That things are better in Portugal because of it, and I think it's Sweden that has had. If you're a heroin addict in Sweden, you go to a clinic and they shoot you up with, pure drugs and a clean needle every day instead of putting you in jail. And people are, they're functioning addicts, and that's been going on, I think, for quite some time. So
yeah, no, the Portugal story is definitely a big deal. It's worked very well. So there's some reason to it, and so anyway, we'll see. I just wanted to say real quick, the S&P's turning down a bit here, along with the Dow. The NASDAQ has sort of led the way higher. So, our idea that we talked about yesterday, where we might get a bit of a run to the upside, has so far happened. And it's, it's the fact that we are kind of going up gently could, if some other catalyst comes out here between now and the end of the week or early next week, it's possible that, we could have an acceleration to the upside still. But nevertheless, we are struggling here. We really haven't gone anywhere this morning on the S&P. We're kind of being in a tight range. And while the NASDAQ has surged, the FANGs are coming back a bit, which is good. If they really get their mojo going and start rebounding strongly, that could be helpful tomorrow and Friday. Even if we pull back a bit right now. So I'm not saying sell everything just yet, but I would be selling any stocks that look like they're in a downtrend, and I would be putting stops right under anything that's performed well so far. We caught a bit of a run on urban outfitters, which was about $1 higher when we called it last night, and sold it about $4 higher this morning at 21. And so far, I think it's come back a bit. I haven't checked it in the last few minutes, but the big look, the oil came in just as we thought. I said we might see a big inventory drawdown yesterday, and it came in 9 million barrels lower last night and was just about 8.9 million barrels this morning. It's quite unusual to see those two numbers match up. However, the oil has sold off, but right now I think we should be buying the oil right about here, and the energy sector in general. It's typical. It's not unusual for this thing to kind of sell off, but we're kind of making a double bottom in and around this level right now. So I'm not expecting an immediate rebound, but it somewhere in around here, it's probably a good idea to try and buy the energy sector, because it actually could turn around here. And within a day or two, it could be making new highs back up towards 50. I think this is sort of a sell the news thing. Even though the oil has been in a bit of a downtrend for the last few days, I think the cumulative effect of this inventory drawdown is actually a pretty big deal. And it might take one more next week, or I don't. It seems to be a very considerable trend. We did point this out several, 5 or 6 weeks ago, where this thing looked like it was going to be in a deficit situation for quite a while, and so far that's happening. So, and it's happening around the world. I mean, the cumulative drawdown is approaching 200 million barrels worldwide right now, which is a massive dent in the productive capacity of the world. And it actually is tightening. It's potentially tightening up the market quite significantly, and as a result, I would say that the surprises are probably going to be on the upside once we get above sort of 48. You could probably see a rebound, and possibly quite a quick one, right up to 50. Because with the market being this tight, if the Saudis come in and buy it, or help it up in some way, it could really move the needle pretty quickly. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. The other thing that today, look, the copper has absolutely exploded higher from last night. Hit about 298 this morning. Come back a bit. Looks very potent. You got to be buying dips on this stuff. FCX, which is Freeport McMoran, is going higher, and all the gold stocks did go higher this morning. We put out a buy on the nugs and the gold stocks in general, and put a sell on dust. And actually, the way the dust is looking, I think this could be at the beginning of a pretty strong move up in the gold here. If we continue higher and the nugget gets momentum, the dust could really be in all kinds of trouble here, because it's actually approaching all-time record lows if it falls another few points. So that would be really very bullish for the metals, because if there's no premium in the dust, it doesn't say much for the bears. And the platinum is also acting quite well. If you remember, the platinum led the way up this previous rally, and it seems to be clawing its way higher fairly methodically right now, fairly solidly. The silver, if you remember, I think we said yesterday that the silver looked like it was going to turn, and it actually turned really well, very in a kind of a similar way to the way the market turned back on Friday, Thursday night, Friday. If you remember, we were down all night in the market after a fairly sharp correction, which we've had on silver, and then we started rallying, and this kind of structure that silver's put in here looks fairly bullish, to tell you the truth. And also look, the dollar started breaking down this morning, and it hasn't sort of broken the trend yet, but some of the currencies are rallying, notwithstanding, especially the resource currencies, the Aussie dollar and the Canadian are actually rallying really well. The Swiss franc is coming off the lows also, and only the pound, the yen, and the euro sort of not kind of off and running yet. But look, this is the first time we've seen the resource currencies lead this rally for quite a while. This is quite an unusual development to see the Aussie dollar and the Canadian and the New Zealand dollar actually acting as well as they are today. So I think this is actually a pretty good sign. So somewhere in this general area, look, the dollar, if it suddenly sort of spikes down, you definitely want to consider going long the currencies. And if the Aussie dollar and the Canadian keep going higher, I think the rest of the currencies are going to turn. So that would actually help the market in the next few days. The other thing that's helping the market today, until this little bit of a pullback that's going on, is the FANGs. Did turn up a little bit this morning, some of them, and initially they were down, like Facebook was down and Nvidia was down, and then they sort of turned around. So that's an encouraging sign, but they're not really going anywhere too much. Google and things were up, somewhat. But if for this market to really get back, get going, we've got to see the Dow up 100 plus today. It's got to, if this pullback right here resumes to the upside, then I think it's a go with type of a market. To be honest with you have to be really careful right here in the next few days, because we're getting very close to our 21st of August objective as a possible high point, and it just, the only thing we don't know is, are we going to sort of go out with a whimper, or are we going to go out with a bang? Are we going to have a really strong rebound here in the next few days on some news? Could happen, or the dollar may be going down or something like that. Just like yesterday, they had this infrastructure thing come out of the blue. The market's gotten some sort of mileage, today, probably from that. If they come out tomorrow and say something about tax cuts, maybe that'll do it, or the healthcare thing as well. The pharmaceuticals are still pretty have a quick. Yeah, they're really not going anywhere at all, the pharmaceuticals at the moment. So if something dramatic happens there, that could help the market higher. But right now, the S&P is creeping a little bit. Where oh, you're looking at the gold right now, right? So
I've got crude up right now, actually.
Oh, crude.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is picking up off the lows. You can see that, right?
Yeah, we had a sell in at 47.40, and it made it down to a low of 13. So it's about $170 per contract. No, 270 per contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're short, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. You know, so it's worth covering. But whether it goes above that little line you've got right there, that, you know, if it was to roll over and make it, it's probably going to make a lower low and then it'll go up. But given the, you know, when the news is so bullish, you got to be a little bit careful on the short side, you know.
Well, what we would expect, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So we would expect it to come back above 47.40 for a tad, and then, as you say, roll over, and then this next move to the downside may be even more pronounced. This little spike right here, it was off the inventory numbers today. Nothing overwhelming, pretty quiet actually. So
no, the technicals really, you know, that doji there really kind of told the story. That it wasn't going to be, you know, what everybody thought, which is the market would go crazy. But you know, we've seen this before with the crude, this sort of delayed action, and sometimes the move happens overnight. So I think, you know, maybe even late this evening, if that crude gets down to a kind of an oversold level, it could be a great buying point. Because I just can't believe this crude won't go higher on this news that came out today. It's really quite a big deal, and cumulatively, it's a huge deal, you know. So I'm inclined, and I think this, you know, the Saudis or somebody's going to take advantage of it and come out with some kind of a move that could just trigger a rebound and catch everybody out, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, the grains, you know, when they had that shocking move down, look how much lower they've gone since then. It's been a pretty big deal, and they're really in a very serious downward momentum right now.
This sell-off move right here on the WASD report last week, I mean, that was that was stunning. And then we had a gap lower open here, and we've just kind of continued to trail lower. Last night the alert said to consider selling 918. We haven't quite got there yet, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we're right down to where we took off from almost. You know, remember, it was the low 900s was where this whole rally started. So on the
buy signal at 9, so we haven't triggered yet either on the long side or the short side today. Everything has just been very quiet. Yesterday on the soybeans, what happened yesterday? Yesterday we were looking to sell 934. So yesterday's trade worked out quite well from 934, which is right here. 934. There you go.
You know, I just want to point out there is just look at it is really a very tricky market here today, because some of the leading stocks are starting to falter again, and if they were to accelerate to the downside, they could drag the rest of the market down this afternoon. So it's just, you know, in spite of our belief that you know, we've got a few more days before our target, if the reality is that we turn down this afternoon, I would tend to think that's a go with market, because, you know, we had this very brutal sell-off the other day. We've kind of had this rally. If the next leg of the downturn. Look, there's a new leg of a downturn coming sometime in the next few days. It's either going to be today, or it's going to be a few days from now. And I think, you know, look, this is no time for heroics. People who are long with big profits should be. Look at the way the Dow's coming off right now. I'm starting to think this market might not make it today, and it might be a sell right here. We already sold it a couple of 20 points higher, the Dow, but it's definitely accelerating to the downside now. So, and the Nasdaq's coming off as well. So, you know, sort of up in the morning, down in the afternoon is not a good sign, frankly.
Yeah, we're definitely the 72.73. That's a weekly trading zone, as I've told everyone last week, and it's also just how the numbers played out. It came out as a weekly zone again this week. Now, last week we had the 64.65 zone, but we have nothing from where we're at now, from where we're starting to sell off. We have our next zone is all the way down at 53.54. So I normally don't put all that out until Thursday to the general public, but guys, keep an eye on that, because if this zone from last week doesn't provide us with support, then we're most likely headed to 53.54. Okay, now we overshot it. We got to put in a low here at 24.60. The zones that were sent out to the partners Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. From 72, the next stopping point is 53.54. So that's quite a bang for your buck. So if you're short this, you know, keep your stops tight and then follow it down. Wayne's with us. Hey, Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you?
Good.
John?
Missed you last week.
Well, yes. Sorry I wasn't able to make it.
That's all right. Glad to have you this week. What's been going on?
Well, quite a few things.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very up on them. I've enjoyed listening to the comments the last few minutes from John and from you. And it'll be interesting to see whether there is the kind of flight into precious metals that some have indicated they're seeing these days, and what the rest of the markets will do, I guess we shall see. But in any event, I think the primary news item this last weekend has been this Charlottesville violence, and I think much to do with the political scene in Washington.
Yeah.
And the last election.
I want to talk. I want to talk about this Charlottesville thing with you, John. I don't know if you're going to stay with us or if you have to take off, but I just wanted. There was a question for you from Brad. I wanted to get that covered, and then we'll talk more about this Charlottesville issue. Brad had asked, "How did you make money on Urban Outfitters? Was it based on the overnight earnings announcement?"
Yeah, it was. It was. Look, when I just happened to catch it when it was up about $1, and I thought it was worth a shot. It was a bit of a crapshoot, to be honest with you. But I thought it was worth going for it when it was $1 and a half.
That's funny that you say crapshoot. His question actually was, did you gamble on an overnight earnings announcement? So there you go.
Yeah, kind of I did, actually. Yeah. So
interesting.
It worked out all right. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And so, yeah, John, you may want to weigh in on this Charlottesville thing, too. How did this all get started? This happened on
I don't know.
Sunday.
Look, it's a crazy. Look, you know, I don't know what these fellows on CNN, they're just over the top, and they just sort of egg each other on. There's a whole bunch of cronies they keep dragging up every day. And then most of them are has-beens who've never been there, and they're just... I mean, it's like an inflammatory kind of it's almost like a rally. And they just were at it all night. And they make stuff up. I mean, they're just out there. They sort of say things about Trump doing. He never does. I mean, it's all manufactured. It's absolutely incredible. And this is the problem with the fake news industry today, is it's all created, it's manufactured, it's not news anymore, it's all opinion, and they can shape, as somebody sent me something yesterday saying, don't never let the truth turn into a lie, and that's what these guys are doing. Each and every day they're taking things and twisting them around. I mean, to be fair, Trump probably should have just said no more. I'm not going to comment further on this stuff.
What he said Monday was elegant, it was presidential, it was all-American, and then he turns on a dime Tuesday, but it still wasn't enough, Dwayne. It wasn't enough to satisfy these guys. Oh yeah, it never is.
Because they were saying he should have done it on Saturday and all this, and then he kind of got drawn into it yesterday, and really it was unfortunate because they kind of just went wild with it, and it just. And then all this business about these spineless guys resigning. I mean, give me a break. It's absolutely pathetic.
I think he said he's going to shut the whole thing down now.
Well, maybe good for him. They should have probably got some of these billionaires involved. They're probably better suited than the CC because they don't have to answer to anybody. And the other thing is, I mean, here's what they were saying yesterday on CNN, which is just that's sort of totally over the top. They're sort of saying that all the people in the White House are complicit, with Trump, and then it's just, I mean, how can you say something like that? It's just absolutely crazy. And you've got a heavy, you got this guy Don Lemon at night, who's I mean, he's more racist than anybody on the planet. I mean, and then Van Jones is another one. I mean, these guys you can tell they're racist just from the way they're carrying on with their commentary all the time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump has been friends with, look, he's been working with guys like Jesse Jackson since the 90s, and Don, the guy, the boxing promoter. I mean, this guy is one of Trump's best friends. I mean, for heaven's sake. And then you got the Diamond and Silk and all. He's got a tremendous support in the black community, Trump. And it's actually growing. And this really messes things up badly. It's really unfortunate.
It is. What are your thoughts, Wayne, on what happened?
Well, there are a number of ways.
What created this? How did this thing happen on Sunday? Was it a planned rally? I mean.
Well, for those of us hoping that the president just elected is the first anti-establishment president in my lifetime, and even for those who had that hope and have become doubters, I think that Charlottesville, as bad as it is or was, is a positive signal that indeed Trump still is not an establishment guy, that he is the opposite, and that therefore we ought to take hope that he still is in the saddle and intending to change things in Washington. Look at what we have in Charlottesville. What is Charlottesville? Well, it's the capital of Virginia. Who's there? Well, Terry McAuliffe is the governor of Virginia now. Almost surely elected by election fraud himself, but the bag man for years for the Clintons. In fact, it was with his assistance that the $750,000 or so payment to the deputy head of the FBI was given to the wife of that deputy FBI official at the time that all this was going down. You remember the election. She was supposedly running for election and have to an assembly seat, and McAuliffe funnels her $750,000. It just happens that her husband is as deputy head of the FBI, and of course in position to influence the kinds of other issues that the FBI was handling at the time. And certainly all of that is anti-Trump. What else did we see in Charlottesville? We saw people in purple shirts. Now, what's purple about? Well, we learned that on the day after last November's election, the morning after, when Hillary and Bill and what was his name, Keynes, the senator from Virginia, who was her vice presidential nominee, all of them were dressed in either entire purple or purple ties or something of the sort, all announcing the onset, at least the public coming out, of the Purple Revolution. That is the Purple Revolution to overthrow the elected president and to reassert the power over the government of the shadow government, the establishment, the ruling elite, as I call them. And that's what we had in Charlottesville. We had a continuing campaign that is likely to see other places in the country of the same nature, in which governors are Democrat establishment, or they might be Republican establishment. But you look at the kind of people who are the mayor and the vice mayor and so forth, those are all enemy territory so far as an anti-establishment president is concerned. So I'm hopeful that this is a positive sign that indeed it's not over for the prospects for President Trump, that indeed some of the signals, the other signals that we're getting, that he is actually still on his campaign to drain the swamp, that he's going to get some better people in to help in the Justice Department and in other departments, which have still been controlled even after his election and after his inauguration by the ruling elite, for certain. And so I'm, in that respect, encouraged by it. I don't think it's any news that the press is absolutely the baying hounds of the establishment, even of the deep state, which are really one and the same. I mean, the deep state is the working arm of the ruling elite establishment, doing everything they need to behind the scenes in the dark, but on the surface, sometimes even doing things that are absolutely the opposite of what their real intentions are. For example, one of the themes, of course, of the outrage about Charlottesville is supposedly animus toward African Americans. And I think we've spoken before about the manifesto of the ruling elite published back in 1901, in which their true attitude, the ruling elite's attitude toward blacks, toward yellow-skinned people, toward brown-skinned people, toward dirty-skinned whites, was absolutely made crystal clear. They were regarded as people of the abyss. At the very best, only the best of them worthy of being human machinery. And that the plan for them is to exterminate them, to learn how to poison them and learn how to end their lives as quickly as possible, and of course to prevent their lives from even catching fire at birth, if they can, by the means that we have seen of abortion. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I think Charlottesville represented. And yes, there are various other kinds of offshoots to it. That is the destruction of our history, the attacks on people who look more deeply into the people involved, such as Robert E. Lee, the target of those who wanted to rip down his statue, and they've already renamed the park where his statue stands. So it's a fight. It's not over by any means. The war is still to be determined. But at least
we're still fighting the Confederate War, in other words.
Well, the Confederate War was another instigated war by the establishment that was intended to tear apart the United States. It was intended to separate the South to be taken by France and the North to be taken by Britain. No, that didn't happen. But in terms of what controlling influence still remains in the country from those crowns in Europe, I think that's certainly open to discussion as to what it remains today and what that relationship is. But there's certainly an intention on the part of the establishment to tear down as much of the positive history of Americans as they can, and to put us on a whole new approach to society that has one specific aspect controlling overall. That is the demolition of the middle class, the demolition of the class that is able to support itself and to actually compete with the ruling elite and even overcome it. That is the absolutely necessary objective of what they're trying to do. The middle class in America in particular, but around the world, it's their objective to destroy it, so there will be only two classes: the ruling elite and their servants, their slaves. Too many aspects of that to go into, but that's basically what Charlottesville was about. And such a shame. It's such a beautiful place, and my experiences there have been very nice people, and a great part of our national heritage that the middle class loves to believe that we in fact did throw off the royalty, but it's not the case. We have had the ruling elite from the rest of the world, but also centered in New York and other parts of this country that have done their utmost to try to destroy the people who in reality really did make this country great by their hard work and innovations and their production of capital and their competition with others who would provide the goods and services that are beneficial to others. So what would you like to talk about from that? There are plenty of ways to go about it, but I don't want to by any means filibuster in terms of these kind of things.
We had John, anything you want to add to that?
No, just great, very well presented. Thanks very much, Wayne, as always.
Glad to do it. I had the opportunity last week. It was a conflict that I couldn't be with you to talk about in more detail that manifesto written by H.G. Wells back in 1901. Certainly he was the scribe for the ruling elite. It was basically their field manual for others in the elitist group to know what's going on, what the game plan is, what's to be done. And it is a truly remarkable basically blueprint for what we have experienced since then. And I've mentioned before the the plans to learn how to destroy a good part of the human population that they think is unnecessary. But the other aspects of the plan presented included a privately owned central bank. It included a graduated income tax. It included death taxes to confiscate the estates of the what he called the incompetent rich, who were not energetic in their efforts toward destroying the middle class, were not willing to be activists along with the ruling elite to take charge and to rule over the rest of humanity, to destroy those people, while at the same time using tax-exempt organizations to make certain that those really with the ruling elite paid no taxes at all. I'll bet you it would be hard to find any effort whatsoever by the Internal Revenue Service ever to go after the tax-exempt organizations of the ruling elite that exist in this country, whatever their practices are. Yes, there are some statutes, minimal as they are, that supposedly require you to do this or to do that in order to be in good standing under the tax laws and to be tax exempt. But we saw just 8 years ago, 4 years ago, something or other, the attack on tax-exempt organizations. If they are conservative and representative of the middle class, you get a real going over by the Internal Revenue Service. Even threats or actual attempts at criminal prosecution or seizure of your assets or shutting down of your offices and seizing computers. But the prospect of any of the big tax-exempt organizations, even the Clinton administration foundation, with all of the reports of the incredibly corrupt practices about the specific aspects that they haven't even filed for the proper exemptions, and yet they have collected billions of dollars in charitable contributions, no taxes, and engaging in pay for play and political payoffs and a graft of the worst kinds, not to mention various, we'll say, taking of lives. And yet we have not to this date seen any real investigation into their activities or into their qualification for any kind of tax exemption or charitable activities.
There was a question from the audience referring to something that you mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure exactly what it was that you said, but the question was, are you referring to the protocols of the learned elders of Zion? Something
no,
I
that's
not heard of prior to just this moment. I just looked it up on Google, but
I'm aware of those, but no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about the book published in 1901 by H.G. Wells called Anticipations of the Reactions of Society to Mechanization and Technology, or something like that. There's a very long title that you have to have a paragraph to put it in. It's generally referred to as Anticipations, published in 1901.
Who wrote it?
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, yeah, the great science fiction writer.
Well, I wouldn't say anybody regarded him as a great anything until this book came out.
Oh, really?
He basically made a hand-to-mouth type of living with a series of not just science fiction, but horror story books, things of that sort, until 1901 when this book came out, and this book made him a rock star. It's a little bitty book, When I looked for it,
Anticipations of the reaction of mechanical and scientific progress upon human life. That's the name of it. Go ahead.
when this book came out, proposing that all of the dirty-skinned whites and everyone else and so forth and so on be eradicated, that democracy be ended for certain, that the middle class be destroyed as soon as possible, and do it by every means necessary, including disease and so forth and so on. And what happened to this guy? Was he run out of the halls of respectability? Absolutely not. He was invited to the White House of Theodore Roosevelt as the honored guest at a reception on the arms of American intellectual elite. He came out of the White House with his audience with Theodore Roosevelt, praising him as the human demigod of whom I have dreamed. I would think that Theodore was probably one of the operatives of the ruling elite. They never put the really top people into office themselves, but they have their puppets. And Theodore was, in my best opinion, one of those. And so he got that kind of praise. By the time Franklin Roosevelt got into office in the 1930s, H.G. Wells was invited for extended stays at the White House and at the Roosevelt compounds for extended visits with both Franklin and Eleanor, as well as the Brain Trust. And he had even higher praise for Franklin as a revolutionary of the most beneficial kind, the one that is continuously revolutionary in all things, but in such a way that he never inspires or permits any reaction from those who are anti-revolutionary, that he never causes an actual uprising, but he changes things in exactly the way they ought to be changed, which is to say, to destroy the middle class. Remember,
here's a quote from his book, Chapter 3, Developing Social Elements. The two-class social system of a lower class administered by a superior class derived from the speed of horses in an agricultural society, according to Wells. The revolution in technology he predicts will produce in the 20th century a system of four classes. One, the shareholding class, administering irresponsible property. Number two, the abyss, consisting of people without either property or any evident function in the social organism. Number three, a reconstructed, productive, and capable middle class, including, notably, mechanics and engineers whose potential will depend on the education this class receives, no longer being middle in any meaningful sense. And finally, number four, a class of non-productive business managers, political organizers, brokers, financiers, clerks, etc. All these elements will be mingled confusedly together, passing into one another by insensible gradations. Wells regards the United States as the social mass which has perhaps advanced furthest along the new lines.
Well, that is a commentary on anticipations. That's not from the text itself. And I would say it diverges, in my opinion, from what Wells actually says. There's no question that Wells himself in that book has a specific central fundamental objective, and he states it very clearly. It is to destroy the middle class and go back to the historic system that he says is so stable and so beneficial and so proper, that acknowledges the right of the superior class to rule, and the other class is to serve as serfs or peasants. That is his clearly stated objective and what ought to be done. And the plan or manifesto that he lays out is how to get there. And he specifically states that the middle class must be destroyed now. If it is allowed to grow any further, we risk the chance that we will never be able to go back to the two-class system as we should. And certainly, from the point that he wrote that in 1901, got audiences not only in the White House, but in the royal palaces of Europe. Again, you know, he was, as much as anything, not going to those places in order to get an audience for what he's writing in his book. He's going because those are places that are strongholds of the attitudes that he is simply reporting in his book. He was the scribe for the people who are controlling the officials in those halls of government. And as much as anything, he was probably getting more instruction and coaching from them as to what he's to say in public and what he is not to say in public, as he was instilling in them, you know, ideas that he himself was presenting. But his descriptions of further actions to be taken are quite extensive. They take up most of the rest of the book. As I think I've said to you before, the first two chapters in the book are just absolutely deadly dull, in my opinion, and hardly relate to anything worth discussing. It seems to me that they were...
Chapter 1 is locomotion in the 20th century, and Chapter 2 is the probable diffusion of great cities.
And you can get plenty of sleep in trying to read them.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Go ahead.
Look, it's kind of a market alert. What we were saying literally, half an hour ago, or even a bit over half an hour ago, appears to be happening in real time. Remember, I said the dollar looked like it was going to break.
Are you talking the dollar?
Well, the S&P too, but the dollar is broken. The currency. Remember, I said the euro could just take off any minute. The euro, all the currencies are up now, but the resource currencies are accelerating higher, and the dollar is breaking. The markets are breaking. It's not looking very good.
The dollar's coming off pretty hard here. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the grains, Dwayne, have turned up, as I was kind of expecting we might get a rally today. So, and the metals are acting better and better now. The gold is starting to move, quite strongly higher, and so that's the story right now.
Well, I think it's got to be the case sooner or later, whether today or tomorrow or the next day. I don't know, but the dollar has been destroyed.
Yeah, Trump has disbanded his CEO forum as well. Maybe that's causing them to come over.
Yeah, he's just disbanding the whole thing. He's just the heck with it.
From what I heard him say yesterday, the people were leaving because he's been on them to bring the jobs back from overseas, and they're refusing to do it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's insanity.
Well,
I know you wrote an article, an essay on your website, Wayne, which, by the way, I don't think I've put that up for folks today. Wayne is the author of The Fruits of Graph, Great Depressions, Then and Now. And if you take a look up at the screen, you can see his website, classicalcapital.com. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's The Fruits of Graph, and you can grab a copy here or at Amazon. Now, on Friday, Wayne, we interviewed the CTO of BTC Media and Bitcoin Magazine. When we had the discussion with him Friday, Bitcoin was trading at 3,500. Over the weekend, it broke 4,000. Now, this is something we first began talking about on the radio show back at $2. And John McAfee...
You know where it is? You know where it is right now?
Where?
4,300.
43? Wow.
100, yeah.
Well, John McAfee, I shared this at the beginning of the show, so I won't read the whole thing again, but I will put the link in the chat box for anyone that wants to take a read on it. He talks, John McAfee's he's led quite an adventurous life, to say the least. But he goes into some very good reasons about why, comparing this to a bubble is that people are looking at the whole thing. It's a whole new paradigm, a whole new way of thinking. And I know you have, Wayne, some pretty strong feelings in regards to this. Has anything changed at all?
Well, I wouldn't say fundamentally. There is, I think, a great deal of and growing concern among those holding currencies as to whether they are going to be worth anything in the near future. And so therefore, these other avenues are being explored and searched. And frankly, though, I think in my, I'm going to have to say it, but I'm very high on the blockchain and the great capabilities that it has in terms of making a system secure.
Mm-hmm. The distributed ledger type thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have such an interest in Ethereum. I think more so than I do Bitcoin.
Well, I would mention to you, since you brought it up,
mm-hmm.
I one time had a fairly significant holding for me. I mean, a small one for any other purposes. Investment interest in a company called Overstock.com.
Oh yeah, I know. What's his? God, he's been on the show a number of times years ago. Yeah, Patrick Byrne. Right. He's a great guy. He really is. He's not the tinfoil hat kook they try to paint him to be. That's all because he took his company public via Dutch auction, and it did not sit well with the good old boy network.
Right.
He could have been potentially the next Amazon, but he's quite
made himself a pariah by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But to do otherwise would have been to become a part of the establishment, and that's like taking rat poison, if you ask me. But in any event, the reason I brought it up is not because of his selling of overstocked products. It is because they are a major player in the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And
he accepts Bitcoin as payment on his on the Overstock website. But
they have been developing their own technology relating to the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And from the reports I've seen, some contend that they are really a major player in that in terms of their innovations and their patents on various kinds of things. And so we'll see whether they've got an operation within Overstock that takes care of this technology now, and the reports I've seen indicate that they have made some major strides. I don't know any specifics, but that one I think will bear some watching, whether they spin off their blockchain operations or not. They are the ones who were trying to present technology directly to the barons of Wall Street, and to the stock exchanges, to actually go to an honest financial system as opposed to the very corrupt one that we have. And I think that woman who at one time was running the silver operations for JP Morgan Chase has now started a blockchain company to do financial operations, but of course it would be I think, in my estimation, most likely intended to be able to continue corrupt operations and control the markets, as opposed to the honest markets that would like to see. But in any event, I just mentioned that as one of the aspects. But as far as these cryptocurrencies are concerned, they just aren't designed to be currencies. What I would call them would be something in the nature of what I would describe as a severable asset. They have a so-called public value according to what the demand is for them from moment to moment. And the technology enables you to split off a part of that to use it for commercial purposes, to trade it for something else. But in terms of having any specific value other than whatever somebody is willing to pay you for at a particular moment in exchange for it, it is simply, in my estimation, as I've said in that writing you were talking about, it is a kind of a chain letter that is purely supply and demand. It doesn't pretend to have any particular value to it other than what somebody else is likely willing to pay for it. And as a result, that price is almost surely to be volatile at all times. Therefore, it disqualifies it as being a goods currency, as being good money, because it cannot be the unit of value that is used to price goods and services. And so that's the problem with it. It could be that Bitcoin will go to 10,000 or 20 or whatever, but that doesn't make it good money. You'd always be in a position that somehow or other you have to make your prices in some other measurement in order to find out how much Bitcoin you need to charge for it.
Did I come out with my 8,750 call yesterday on Bitcoin? I think I did.
8,750. I don't remember, John.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's the number.
Goldman Sachs is looking at they're looking for a top at $5,000 and then a pullback to 2,200. They're right a lot of the time, but they've been wrong as well.
I think it's going. I think it's going higher. I think it's gonna. This one's going to be higher than most people think. I think somebody came out with 7,500 yesterday, and I think I'm the first one who's called for 8,750. I mean, apart from the crazy calls, and there's a few of them as well, like the 50,000, 10,000 or so. But I think on this particular run, that's where we're going.
Well, John, may I say this particular run, and I assume from your other comments that the driving force behind this is basically investor sentiment. Well,
actually, a couple of interesting things came out this morning. I don't know whether you saw it, but the Ukrainian government, they had some kind of a disclosure thing where they disclosed they have $45 million worth of Bitcoin. And that's very telling because, they got hit in this ransom deal pretty badly. The one that happened a couple of months ago. The worldwide deal when about 200,000 people got hit all over the world, or maybe 250,000.
Yes.
And, they all had to pay in Bitcoin. So that kind of really started this Bitcoin run. When you got 250,000 people trying to buy Bitcoin at the same time, it definitely has an impact. And then you get the sort of, the company managers who are saying, look, we better buy some Bitcoin just in case. So there's a lot of contingency buying of Bitcoin. And now it appears you had governments, because remember, the Russian government got hit pretty bad. So if you've had governmental buying of Bitcoin, possibly China, Russia, Ukraine, and many other countries, in anticipation of some kind of hacking or something, that's why we're at 4,300 right now.
On top of all of that, you have the greatest impetus of all, and that is everybody should buy it because it's going up.
Well, that's where we're sort of going into that mania stage right now. And then there's also the criminal element, which is, where it's just becoming the medium of dark money, of illicit funds and money. So it's a big deal, from that standpoint. Right, we're in an accelerative up phase right now, and it could be very, very rapid. This move to 8,750 or up towards there could be very rapid indeed. It could really shock people, and it might even happen in days.
Well, there's been some recent commentary that I heard, some just this morning, that a part of the situation is that the impetus that is pushing more attention into these and therefore more investment in it, whatever you want to call it, is that this is the end objective of the powers that be to get us into an electronic currency in which there is not even paper currency, and therefore it is completely not only trackable but also subject to being shut off from anybody at any time. So I don't know enough about it. One of the things that I haven't educated myself about is I keep hearing about all of the work that is necessary to create a Bitcoin. That there has to be a lot of computer work, and it takes time and all that sort of thing. And I don't know what that's all about, but perhaps
if you listen to Friday's interview, you can find it on our YouTube channel, Wayne, or on emini.cfrn.net, or even on iTunes. So all the regular places. The gentleman Tyler Evans, who is the CTO of Bitcoin Magazine and BTC Media, very nice young man, and he gave us a pretty good understanding of how it works. I mean, and what it's all about. It's still I agree with you, somewhat confusing, I suppose, to say the least. But that's maybe a good starting point. When you go to the interview, you can just fast forward right up.
Well, thank you. I'll try to do that. That sounds like it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and we're going to have him back. And also, it's possible now to put Bitcoin in your IRA. There's a company. The name of the company is actually Bitcoin IRA, and we were going to have their CTO Chris on last week, and then he got tied up, and so Tyler came in his stead. So I need to get back in touch with Chris and find out when we'll be able to have him on, because that's this is the first. The IRS has approved. I don't know if they've approved across the board or if they've approved simply for this one company, Bitcoin IRA. But from my understanding and from the literature the company sent me, it is now possible to place Bitcoin in your IRA. So that opens up a whole new avenue for this to become something that is widely accepted. It used to be, and there's so many different currencies. There's travel coin. If you Google the top 10 cryptocurrencies of 2017, it gives you an idea of all the different directions that we're moving in. And we got into the discussion Friday about how in the Internet of Things, that's where your iPhone talks to your refrigerator, which talks to your air conditioning. I mean, they will utilize these things called smart contracts, and it honestly gets a little bit over my head. I mean, I've studied it, and I realize that I don't, just like my car, I don't necessarily have to understand how the internal combustion engine works in order to get in the car and drive to the store. So I'm not going to spend all my waking hours learning about it, but I'm going to at least learn how to drive. If you get the analogy there. So
yes. Well, it's certainly going to the great challenge in my mind for economies around the world is to have a stable currency, a stable money, and not one in which the laborer, will say, takes a Bitcoin and hopes to cash in by the weekend as up 100% on what he just earned. Right. He just wants to be the guy who doesn't wind up with zero for what he worked for today. He needs to be able to trust the money that he takes for his hard work and contribution.
Well, anytime you buy stock in a company, if you buy stock in a company, stocks go to zero all the time.
Yes, and that, I think, is less volatile than these approaches to, which stock can present the kind of growth that Bitcoin has been exhibiting?
I don't think there has ever been any investment entity in the history of the world that has performed percentage-wise in as short a period of time as Bitcoin. Now, that's not a recommendation to anyone to go out and buy Bitcoin. At $2, I didn't say go buy Bitcoin, and at $4,000, I'm not saying go buy Bitcoin. I just tell everyone to do their own due diligence and do what they feel is right. Whatever is in their best interest. So.
Right. I think that laborer who works every day, he would be in a difficult position to be paid at the rate that he's paid per day and take it out in Bitcoin at $4,000, because the $4,000 might be $400 within 3 weeks or a month, and it's not a good way to save. But
could be 40,000. It could be 40,000 too.
Yes,
so on this correct. Radio program, we watched it go from $2 to 4,000. So I'm not making any predictions whether it's going to increase or decrease in value. I think in all healthy markets that there will be rallies and drawdowns. I mean, look, we're just looking at I've got the dollar chart up right now. For the last 30 minutes, that thing was in a free fall. It seems like it's approaching this trend line that I've put on the chart. So whether you look eventually, what will happen is, I think, there was a time when people looked at their houses as an ATM. and that certainly did not end well. You know, a home was originally the concept of a home was a place where you built memories, not a vehicle for making money. And
boy, it sure looks like a very staid and conservative investment compared to these cryptocurrency things right now. I mean, if you don't double within the 24 hours, you say, well, what a downer. But in any event, thank you for having me today.
Hey, you betcha. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.
All right. John, anything else you want to add?
Well, just that you know, we actually had a sell stop right in there at about right at the where the dollar was going to break. I think at 93.90. I think that's where we put it, and so far it's tanking, and the currencies have leapt to life here in a pretty dramatic fashion. So when it hits that trend line there, you know, it might bounce a little bit, but if it breaks down through it,
this trend line kind of is in conjunction with the 50% retracement from this most recent low.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be look. If it hits that trend line and starts to rebound, I mean, this could be a three-wave correction, and we could be ready for another rally higher, because the dollar has been acting kind of stronger recently than it has in a while. However, I think this is a critical point here. If we do break down below that, you know, even if we rally a bit and then we break and it can't get any further to the upside, I think we're in a whole new ball game, probably on its way down to 90. And the gold, you know, look, we're in the middle of August right now, so we've sort of had a pullback from the beginning of August where gold was strong to a mid-month pullback, and if we have a rebound now into the end of the month, that fits with my picture where several months ago we started talking about being at $18 silver by September, and possibly, you know, over 1,300 on the gold, maybe 1,360, somewhere like that. That could, and you know, based on the seasonalities and everything else, that's where we probably should be, you know, a month from now. And if we are there a month from now, I'm going out on a limb and I'm saying, you know, $1,600 gold is probably the next upside objective, and possibly $25 silver, and maybe even higher, $1,200 platinum, and ultimately about $1,100 on the palladium, and possibly $3.50 to $4 on the copper. So with all these things coming together, and if the dollar does really break down, as you know, I'm just doing a month in advance, but I'm going to come out and I'm going to say that we're on our way to $50 on silver, and we're going to, and we might get there sooner rather than later, and we're headed for new all-time highs in gold. You know, before possibly in 18, or you know, or definitely by, you know, towards 19 or 20, but I think we'll hit 3,000 by 20. The way we're going on the gold. So
well, we've quite a nice little run-up in gold here since the show started.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of run-up, you know, sort of starts out, you know, slow, and it kind of gains momentum. Look at these upward bars. You see how each of those bars, the range is expanding. That's a good sign when that happens. You know, that's a very positive sign.
Yeah, this looks good. Looks very good.
Yep. Yeah.
We got a high now up at 1286.10. We'll see where it goes from there. Thanks, John.
Yeah. Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.
I got that email from you with the address, and I forward that over, and so hopefully I'll hear back from her shortly.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your help. Yeah, in fact, an email just came in.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so thank you again, and I'll
thanks for the invite. Great show today.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, guys, let's walk it down. Let's start with the S&P 500. Okay, I gave everybody a shot to get your screenshot of the alerts if you're not a Trade Alert client. You can take the trial. How do you do that? You go to emini.cfrn.net. emini.cfrn.net. Okay. Little baseball guy here. All right. To go straight to the $1 for 5-day trial, click here. Okay. No automatic rollover. Includes access to the live trading room and indicators as well. It's not just great, it's swell. Now, here's the deal. Hang on, I'll tell you the deal. The deal being is that at the end of the 5 days, you don't automatically roll over into a quarterly or an annual subscription. At the end of the 5-day trial, you assess how well you've done trading in SEM with the alerts, which come out every night, and then you determine if it's something that is beneficial for you. Okay, so grab the screenshot, and then we need to get through these because we more than burned up our time today, but it's all right. We'll get through these. On the S&P 500 last night, we said to consider buying 2468. So we had a run up here, 3¼ points. Price got back below the trigger. We ran up 2¼ points. Price got back below the trigger. We ran up 5 points. Price got back below the trigger, and we ran up from 68 to say 2.5, another 2.5 point run. So you hear me say it all the time, day after day. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. And this is just another example of that happening. Price is always most comfortable trading where it's already been. Okay? So, and then back below the trigger, up, and then this candle, we go back below and back up in the same candle, 5 points. And so far this move good for 2.5 at this point. All right, let's go to the Dow. Okay, now the alerts came out last night at 2015, but since these are 30-minute candles, we'll have to be conservative and use the 2030 candle, which is here. Okay, and we said to consider buying 22,005, and of course these are last week's zones. 22,005 right there, one of last week's weekly trading zones. By 22,005. Okay. All right, swing high there, 22,047. So at 45, that would have been 40. So we got 42 points in that move. We never get out at the swing high or swing low because we trail our stop. Price made an attempt to pull back here and get below the trigger to give us another trade. Unfortunately, it did not make it. There was enough buying momentum in the market that it wasn't able to pull all the way back to 05. However, on this move, it did get back below 05, and so far it's managed to put in a high at 35. So we're talking about 30 points there. Okay. All right. Next, we've got soybeans. And yesterday, we had a nice 8-point drop. But today, on soybeans, we were looking to be long above 31. That has not happened. Or short below 18. So we've got no trigger. No trigger, long or short, on soybeans today. Moving on to crude oil. I think we did crude on the other one. I'll show you the crude here in just a second. Okay, here are the bonds. Okay, let's find 2030 last night. Markets have been giving us this much welcomed volatility that has returned, has given us some two-sided action, which is always good. All right, 2030, yes, okay. On bonds, the email said to consider being a seller at 154.02. 154.02. Now, as I always caution you with bonds, because they pay 31.25 per tick, that sounds like a great thing. Wow, I only need a couple ticks if I'm a 10 contract trader, and I'm done for the day, and I've done well. Yes, that's all absolutely true. But if you're brand new to trading, or if your account size doesn't handle, a reasonable drawdown at 31.25 per tick. I mean, we just went from the Dow, which pays $5 a point. Now we're looking at bonds, 30-year bonds, which pay 31.25 per tick. They pay or take away. They pay and they take away at the same rate, 31.25 per tick. Now, 154.02 down to the swing low was 153.26. So that's 8 ticks. Times 31.25 per tick. Okay. 32 ticks to a point times 31.25 per tick equals $1,000 per point. So let's say bonds go from 153 to 154. That's 32 ticks. That's $1,000 a point. Okay. Boy, bonds are screaming higher. The buy side on bonds last night was to consider. This is the email that went out to each and every one. ZBU, consider buying 154.15. 154.15. And it's going to be right about there. Oh, a little higher. Maybe a little higher. There we have it, 154.15. Okay. Important prices, important areas, almost always tested. Even here, see how it poked through? Ran back, down again. Okay. So this first move up from 154.15 by 154.15. Its initial move took us up to 154.23. So that's 8 times 31.25 per tick. Okay. Now from 154.15, if price were to make it up to 155.15, that would be a $1,000 per contract move. That would be 32 ticks times 31.25 per tick. Hasn't made that move yet, but that's what it would. That's where we would be on a $1,000 move. So what has it done? Well, it got back below the trigger. Off it went again. So from 15 to 32, that's 17. And we're at a high now. So what we've got so far is 22 ticks times 31.25 per tick. Now, if we want to use a little Fibonacci to determine where we might end up, do I not have my extension tool on here? Well, that's a wee bit odd. Let's try this. Okay. Configure, configure, configure. There we go. Okay, we go to drawing tools, and then we go to Fibonacci price extension. We want the image only. We want to apply. Or do I have to drag this? It's been a while since I did it. Yeah, I gotta drag it. There we go. Okay, so there it is, right there. Dropped it right on the spot. Okay, so we're gonna take our fib tool. We're gonna go from the swing low here up to the swing high, and then we just pull it right up to the retracement low. Okay, and here we have this is a 62% extension, which we hit, and it gave us a little bit of a pullback. And now if we're going to go up and take out or do 100%, that'll put us at 155.08. Okay, what does that mean? It means at this line right here we have a duplication of this leg, retrace, and then we have a 100% duplication of that leg. And it does look as if we are going to get that. Okay, so a little Fibonacci to round out your day. Okay, so we did the S&P. Now the short trigger on the S&P is down at 24.57. We got a ways to go before that comes into play. 57, and then you got to keep in mind that if we trigger 57, there's not a lot of room to run before we hit the weekly trading zone. Although we have all of this area here that has, you know, served as support, and so if we were to make it down to that low and trigger 57, okay, there's a 3-point move to 54, but that would be a tremendous statement about the sudden bearishness that has come into the market. We are, the Fed minutes, they were out at 2, and apparently that had to have played into some of this movement that we just saw. Completely slipped my mind at the time. Okay, Reuters gave us, let's see, Federal Reserve policymakers appeared increasingly wary about recent weak inflation, and some called for a halt to further interest rate hikes until it was clear the trend was transitory, according to the minutes of the central bank's policy's last meeting. So today was not a Fed announcement, it was the minutes from the last Fed announcement. The readout of the July 25th, 26th meeting, at which policymakers voted unanimously to keep rates unchanged, also showed the Fed increasingly ready to begin reducing its $4.2 trillion portfolio of Treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities. In the minutes released today, 30 minutes ago, policymakers had a lengthy discussion about a recent streak of soft inflation readings. Inflation has remained below the central bank's 2% target for more than 5 years. Many participants saw some likelihood that inflation might remain below 2% for longer than they currently expected, and several indicated that the risk to the inflation outlook could be tilted to the downside. Some participants on the policy setting committee argued against further rate rises until data has confirmed that inflation is moving back toward the Fed's objective. Other Fed officials, however, cautioned that such a delay could cause an eventual overshoot in inflation that would likely be costly to reverse. So, unanimous at the previous meeting, but now apparently there is some dissension. So we'll see what comes of it. This is what Wall Street is doing on the S&P right now, based on the Fed announcement. All right, the Dow selling off as well. Let's see, where was the sell side on the Dow? 21,965. Okay, so we're way down here. All right, so this has got quite a ways to go before that would trigger. Soybeans, we've had no trigger there. That was quiet. Bonds, okay, continued to creep higher. What did we say we would need for a $1,000 move? We need to get up to 155.15. Is that possible? Of course it is. We often have $1,000 days in bonds. But again, it's not something that I recommend anyone new to trading. Well, look at gold. Nice run for gold. Okay. Wow. This puts us $10, literally $10 away from that big psychological number at 1300. Okay, we've gotten, last time we got to $12.99 and sellers pushed us all the way back into the low 12s, and now we're back up to $12.89.50, and so this becomes $800 per contract available. Based off of the 1281. Okay. After gold, let's look at the Russell. Okay. Last night, 2030. That's when the alerts went out. 2030. They went out at 2015, but to be conservative, we got to use the 2030 candle because these are 30-minute candles. And the email said, consider buying 1384. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Look at this. It comes back. It makes its move. It gets up to, let's see, let me write it down. Buy 1384. Okay. Swing high 87.30. So back in the day, that would be $330. But now it's 115. Why? Because the Russell used to pay $100 a point, and when it moved to the ICE exchange, they whacked the payout to $50 per point. Now, on this pullback, we would have needed it to get at least, just based on the rules, we would need it to get back below the trigger by at least a tick to put the new trade on. Now, this move took us up to 1389, and then we had a very deep retracement. So if you were in this trade and trailing your stop, you would have probably been stopped out somewhere along the way. And then on this pullback again, it did not go deep enough to set a new trade in motion. The swing high of this move has been 1392. Okay, so not a huge move. About 8 points in total. Now we are back below the trigger, and so it is possible that we could get another move to the upside. Okay, so we're below the trigger now. Here we didn't pull back far enough. Here we didn't pull back far enough. But now all systems go. Okay, after the Russell, NQ. 2030. There we go. All right. And on the buy side, 59.14. By 59.14. Swing high is 59.38.50. So 38.14. So we've got a 24-point move at $20 per point. 24 times 20. Okay. Now, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. Really? I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, because I finally got it right. By 59. Okay. Back below the trigger, and then this run took us up to 49.50. So that's 35 times 20. That's $700 per contract available. Now remember, the S&P, the Russell, the Dow, and the NQ cost to trade each contract $500 per contract. Nice move. Okay, what have we not covered? We covered soybeans, we covered gold, we covered the Russell, we covered the NQ. Yep, and we covered the crude, although the crude has sold off additionally. Now 47.40, the swing high right here was 47.41. So see, that actually got one tick above. Okay, so the swing low, here is 47.13. So that's where we came up with this. And we get that one tick above. She drops away from 40. We drop all the way down to 47.40 to 46.67. So we got 33 and for $770 per contract available. Okay, so there we go. There we have it. We've got, there's crude, and we covered the NQ, and we covered the Russell, and we covered gold. Come on, 1300. The bonds. The bonds did not make it to that $1,000 mark. They did get to a high 155.06. 32 ticks to a point. We were 9 ticks shy of that $1,000 per contract. And soybeans still never made a move. Dow Still looks like it's going to attempt another run to the upside. The S&P turning with it. Yep. See this area of support. We got down into it and it held again. So we'll see if it pushes it back above 2468. If so, then that will set the stage for another trade. Okay. All right, we've covered each and every market. Our good word for the day. We started yesterday about shame, talking about shame-based thinking. Okay, today's part 2. Yesterday, let God change the way you think. That was the scripture. Today's scripture comes from James 1:22. Do not merely listen to the word, do what it says. Now that's the New International Version translation. The King James says, be ye not just hearers of the word, but be ye doers also. Shame grows in the dark, but once you expose it to the light of God's word, it loses its grip on you. Feelings can be so fickle, and often they're triggered by everyday things like a familiar song, the mention of someone who hurt you, an anniversary, a birthday, a holiday such as Christmas or Valentine's Day. That's why James tells us, do not merely listen to the word. Do what it says. Melody Beattie, codependency counselor, writes, shame can hold us back, hold us down, and keep us staring at our feet. Many systems and people are controlled by it and want us to play their game. Compulsive behaviors, sexually addictive behaviors, overeating, drugs, gambling are all shame-based behaviors. Our past experiences and the brainwashing we may have had put shame on us. Don't think, don't feel, don't grow or change, don't feel alive, be ashamed. That's what the enemy tells you. But I say be done with shame. Attack it. Go to war with it. Learn to recognize and avoid it like the plague. The Bible says in Romans 8:33 in the Amplified, who will bring any charge against God's elect? Whether you committed the offense or the offense was committed against you, the blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. It's 1 John 1-7. Note here that it says the word all. Not as in some or a bit or a few, but all. All means all. Instead of talking about how you feel, start talking about what you know. How you feel and what you know, the difference between the two can simply be taking the time to read what the Word of God has to say about you. The blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. And if you've been cleansed, what's there to be ashamed of? Right? We've all made mistakes. We'll probably make a few more if God grants us another day. But the good news is, he is quick and just to forgive. We simply need to come before him with a broken and contrite spirit God, I'm sorry. Now, a broken and contrite spirit means that you actually mean it, and that you are going to repent, and repent means to turn and go in the other direction, to do the opposite of that which led you to feel the shame. It's not easy. But it can be simple. Go to the Word of God. Let His Word encourage you. Let the light of His Word chase away the darkness. Shame grows in the dark, but the light of God can send it packing. That's your answer. That's your solution. All the pills and the bottles, all the hours laying on the couch talking to the therapist, none of those have the power of God's Word in your life. Your relationship with the very one who created you. God's Word, which is God's opinion of you, is the greatest healing force on the face of the earth. So read it, believe it, speak it, and stand on it. As you do, you'll begin to rise above your shame-based thinking. Point the enemy towards the door and send him packing. You can be set free today. No more shame, no more guilt. That's our good word for the day. Jim, you can be far much more than you give yourself credit for, my brother. Yes, you can. Alright, guys, that's going to do it for today, this Wednesday, the 16th day of August, 2017. Currently, the Dow's up 26 points. Cash market, S&P's up 2.5. The Nasdaq's up a little over 8. Let's take a look at gold here. Come on, gold. Okay, gold's up $8 on the session, trading 1287.70 last. Crude oil. Once my chart loads here. Come on. I don't think it's gonna load. There we go. Crude oil down 72 cents. That's a little over 1.5%. Gold up $8.50. That's a little over half of 1%. Silver up 35 cents. Trading 1706 last. That's up a little over 2% on the day. Go silver. And again, cash markets, the Dow up 28 points, Nasdaq up, we'll call it 10. S&P 500 up 3, and the Russell 2000 just above the flat line. So far, all markets here at home still green. Thanks, Dieter. All right, guys, thank you all for tuning in today. Now, tomorrow is Thursday, which means tomorrow night will be our partners workshop. If you've been on the trial and you're ready to become a partner, mind. We've got several new partners that will be in the workshop tomorrow night. If you want to be in that workshop with them and you've not yet become a partner, Michael has sent you an email that explains what becoming a partner means and what you need to do. A couple clicks, you're in like Flynn. If for some reason you did not receive your email, just send us an email, support@cfrn.net, or give us a call, 949-423-6464, 949-42-EMINI. Again, Partners Workshop tomorrow night, every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions between now and tomorrow morning, you can always reach us, support@cfrn.net, also 949-42-EMINI. Thanks for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.